This is my response to Group 3's moderator post for Week 3. And Group 3 talked about some of the different demographics affected by the pollution hazards. They were talking about the fact that we look at society separately than we look at our own families. We kind of separate human beings based on our relation to us. We don't see society as a group of human beings. We see my family, your family, my community, your community, and we think that if these things aren't affecting what we consider to be those close to us, that it doesn't matter. We fail to see the bigger picture, which is that the fact that it's affecting anyone should be a problem. So I thought that that was a really strong point that you guys brought up in your video. You talked about how sometimes those in the lower class are disproportionately affected because they're forced to live with things that are cheaper. They need cheaper housing, cheaper food. They need a job, even if it pays less and it exposes you to those hazards, that because they need that income and because they don't have a high income, that they're forced to live with these things. And I think that that shows that it's kind of disproportionately affecting the lower class that have that lower income. You also talked about how they might not even be aware of these issues. They might not know the health risks that are associated with them. And I think that a big part of that is education, making sure that as a community that we're there to support them and encourage them to get that education, and that we work to kind of make that information available to them and promote it and stress the importance of them getting that information and taking advantage of the promotion of the information. A lot of times that education, they don't know where to get it, and if somebody isn't there to help them to get it, that they're never going to get the information. So kind of coming together as a community and understanding that we all have to play our part to overcome those hazards. And then you looked at what an ecological community means, and you kind of provided two different answers to that, and I really liked that. One of the things that you talked about was that we need to reject the ways of society currently and kind of get back to the roots of nature. And you posed the question of whether or not this offers a feasible solution, because are we really willing to make those ecological sacrifices? And I think that in reality right now, society as a whole is not willing to make those sacrifices. We've become very selfish, and we're consuming so much, and we're just not willing to make those sacrifices. We think that all of these, what really are small things, are big things. We think that we have to eat so much. We think that we have to have technology. We have to have big industrial buildings. We have to have everything. And I think that the way society's mindset is right now, that they're not going to be willing to make those sacrifices. And that you kind of talked about how if we're not willing to make those sacrifices, then where are we going as a sustainable community? Because we can't continue to consume and to live the way that we're living. So you talked about rejecting that, but I think that right now that the majority would not reject those ways. But I think that there has to be a starting point as far as what are we willing to give up? What can we sacrifice without maybe diving in completely and trying to sacrifice everything and completely change the way that we live head on, taking those smaller steps and seeing where we can make sacrifices. And then on a different side of that, one of the group members brought up the fact that we need to change the way we act towards one another when looking at an ecological community. And I think that's really important, going back to kind of seeing human beings as human beings and not separating them by how they're related to you or how close they are to you in proximity, and just sort of stopping that separation of human beings, stopping the fact that your life is more valuable than someone else's life, that kind of seeing, going back to the Leopold reading, everybody is equals and everybody as a part of the world and playing a role in society, and kind of respecting that role and wanting to kind of utilize everybody, but also wanting to appreciate everyone and appreciate what everybody has to offer and their place in the community. And so I think you brought up a really strong point as far as we should regard everyone the way that we regard our family, and I think that that would just show, once again, that we are all human beings and we all have something to offer. So I thought that you guys brought up some really great points in your video this week, and I look forward to watching next week's video.